Hi, everyone. We are waiting for a few more individuals to join the webinar, and we will get started about 1 to 2 minutes after 12:30. Thanks for your patience. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Grant-Related Changes webinar. Note that this webinar is a follow-up to the one we hosted in January. Today, you'll have an opportunity to hear about changes we are implementing effective immediately to both our competitive grant making and small grants program. My name is Trisha Hyacinth, and I am the director of the Fund for Women and Girls. I'm joined by my colleague Alex Quesada, associate for the fund, who is your primary contact for any and all grant making related concerns or questions. We are here to answer any questions you may have and invite you to submit questions in the question box located on the right-hand side of your screen. Please contribute your questions at any time during this webinar. We'll be sure to address them at the end. If you don't see the question box, click on the small orange arrow in the top right-hand corner. We have 6 topics to cover during our time together. Since we have current and prospective grantees on the webinar, we'll start off by sharing our overall approach to grant making, followed by our grant cycle shift and rationale, an update on our pending research which impacts our grant making, changes to our grant making strategies. We'll provide an overview of our small grants program as well as changes, and we'll review our fall 2019 grant making timeline. At the end, we'll reserve time to answer your questions. To date, the Fund for Women and Girls has awarded over $7 million in grants to nearly 100 organizations. For nearly 2 decades, we have invested in sustainable solutions that advance the economic security, health, and safety of women and girls in Fairfield County. With respect to health, we exclusively support behavioral and reproductive-related programs and services. We provide funding to organizations that reside both in and outside of Fairfield County, providing they serve women and girls from our county. Our competitive grants range in size from $10,000 to $50,000. However, typical grants are in the area of $20,000 to $25,000. Unlike the other portfolio areas within the community impact area at the foundation, the fund offers a small grants program for grants up to $5,000, which my colleague Alex will speak to later on. Collaboration is one of our core values, and wherever possible, we highly encourage organizations to partner, forge relationships, and leverage each other's expertise and resources. In addition to programmatic and capacity building support, we do offer a limited number of general operating and partnership grants annually. These are by invitation only and reserved for organizations we have long-standing relationships with. Although the Community Foundation has 2 grant cycles, fall and spring, the Fund for Women and Girls has traditionally participated solely in the spring cycle. As of July 1, 2019, we are shifting from spring to fall, and there are a number of factors to explain this shift. Early in our grant-making history, we announced our grantees at our spring event, a practice we haven't done in almost a decade. As many of you know, our sole fundraiser, our annual luncheon, which consistently draws 800 attendees, occurs in the spring. We aim to give our grantees and prospective grantees our undivided attention during our grant cycle, and this is hard to do with our limited bandwidth in the spring. Consequently, we believe it is in our collective interest to make this shift. Our grant making has and continues to be informed by research that we commission approximately every 5 years or so. The research conveys not only the needs of women and girls, but also the gaps in services and identifies new opportunities for the fund. Presently, we have 2 projects underway. The first is a research report, which is a status report on women and girls in our county. And the second is a landscape analysis of organizations in the county providing support to women and girls. Although the research won't be ready for public consumption until early fall, We have thoroughly reviewed the content, identified pressing needs, and updated our funding strategies accordingly. We plan to unveil our research at an event we're hosting on September 24th at the Water's Edge in Darien, so please plan to join us. Presently, the Fund for Women and Girls has 6 strategies that many of you are familiar with, which have remained unchanged for the past few years. These are strategies we developed and believe advance women and girls' economic security, health, and safety. You'll notice that these strategies are broad, and as a result, we've received letters of inquiries that do not squarely align with our mission. Here we have our 8 brand new, very specific strategies. While there may be other strategies not listed here that can certainly bolster women and girls' economic security, health, and safety, these strategies are specifically identified through our research and we believe will best move the needle. We will prioritize programs that use an evidence-based model and are delivered holistically through internal or external support and delivered with cultural competence. As you may know, one reason women are paid less than men is because of occupational concentration or clustering in certain fields. We are especially interested in funding programs that increase access to science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, or STEAM, as well as non-traditional and other high-wage work traditionally dominated by men. By non-traditional, we are referring to vocational work or trades such as manufacturing. While all life skills are important to learn, the 3 we believe to be critical are financial literacy, negotiation, and self-advocacy skills. We also believe it's essential for women, and especially girls, to develop resiliency, self-efficacy, and leadership skills. Self-efficacy, or the belief in one's own abilities to deal with various situations, and resiliency, which is the ability to recover readily from adversity, are key to closing the opportunity gap, which is the overall goal of the foundation. Our 4th strategy is provide affordable, culturally competent, behavioral, or reproductive health services and/or education. While behavioral and reproductive health services continue to be a key strategy of ours, we are emphasizing 2 things: affordability and cultural competence. We have also added education to that strategy. Addressing trauma and toxic stress is new for us. Emotional trauma and toxic stress is linked to substance abuse addiction, violence, negative health outcomes, and more. This strategy really aims to address root causes of issues. Our prior strategy, Increase Safety, was revised to specifically support programs providing violence prevention and/or crises intervention programming and/or services. Expanding access to affordable, high-quality childcare is also a new strategy. Our research clearly underscored that affordable childcare continues to be a barrier for women and their economic security. Our final strategy is provide affordable, quality legal assistance and advocacy. A lack of legal support, whether in employment discrimination, family law, etc., can really result in setting women back and hurting them financially. And now I will turn it over to Alex, who will update you on changes to our small grants program and provide an overview of the fall timeline. Alex?
Hi, everybody. So first I'll start with saying that the Fund for Women and Girls established the Small Grants Program with the primary purpose of enabling the fund to be nimble and responsive to pressing community needs, as well as providing alternative investment opportunities outside of our traditional competitive grant process. With this program, we aim to strengthen the capacity of smaller developing organizations and/or fund innovative grassroots projects programs, or events. Funding through the program is available year-round on a rolling basis, starting July 1st, but it has very limited funding. Typically, we will exhaust our funds for the year before the end of our fiscal year in June. Other thing to know about the small grants program is that eligibility for a small grant program is not impacted by open competitive grants your organization may have, and vice versa. The small grant award does not preclude you from applying for a competitive grant in the fall or the spring cycle. With this upcoming fiscal year, our small grants program will be entering its 4th year. And from our learnings from the past 3 years, our recent research findings, and our new strategies have led us to make the following changes to our program. We will still consider program support for programs or projects up to $5,000, with preference given to organizations with an operating budget of less than $500,000. Additionally, programs or projects that are enrichment oriented, we will be looking to prioritize those programs that provide continuity, meaning they're engaging their participants year over year. Our capacity building will still be supported up to $5,000. The shift in this area will be prioritizing demonstration pilot proposals, programs, projects that seek to increase the cultural competence of staff to meet client needs, included but not limited to multilingual support. We're going to add emphasis to self-care for direct service providers to protect against compassion fatigue or burnout. These self-care requests for staff members supporting women or girls include, but are not limited to, guided stress reduction activities that improve mental and emotional health. We've added a new focus around gendered-focused research or needs assessment proposals, and we'll be looking to fund those up to $2,500 per proposal. And lastly, our event support has changed a little bit, where we will still be focusing on events that are educational in nature, like STEAM conferences, but the maximum award will be $1,000 in that area. And we will not be considering any events that are fundraising for the program. And now we're going to jump into our competitive grant-making timeline for the fall. And again, the small grants program that I mentioned before does not follow this timeline. They run on a rolling basis. But for our competitive process, that will open up in July with our letter of inquiry, July 15th. Those letters of inquiry will be due August 15th. The process will close. During the first week of September, you will receive notifications of decisions made on those letters of inquiry. The third week of September, for those organizations that have been invited for a full application, our applications will be due. And then the October to November timeframe, we'll be scheduling site visits as needed. And then in December, grant decisions are finalized and communicated out to our grantees. The grant term for the fall cycle will run from January 2020 through December 2020. There's also a grant award process included in this. If you are awarded a grant, you'll be asked to electronically sign a grant agreement and participate in performance measure negotiations. Grant checks will be mailed out after these two processes have been completed. We encourage your staff and organization to participate in results-based accountability training offered through our Center for Nonprofit Excellence on July 10th and 24th of this year, so upcoming shortly. You can find the full details on our website, or you can familiarize yourself with RBA through various open source materials are available on our website as well. On our next session, we'll jump into addressing any questions or concerns you might have regarding all the updates we've done. And as a reminder, questions can be submitted in the question box found on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you don't see the question box, there should be a little orange arrow that will expand the box for you. Alrighty, I'm reading all of these. Okay, so I'll start off. We have a couple of questions already in the queue. The first one was, will the slides be sent out to participants? Yes, we plan on sending out the slides and also making available a recording of this webinar. The recording will be available on our website as well as the PDF version of our slides, and sometime later this week. Alrighty. The next question is, what do we select if our program meets or aligns with multiple strategies? If you find that the program or project that you are submitting aligns with multiple strategies, select the one that you find is the strongest alignment. And then as we discuss the program, we can also discuss how it aligns to the other areas as part of our review process. If an agency submitted an application that was deferred to the fall, do we need to resubmit? Yes. If you submitted an application this past spring cycle and were asked to defer to the fall, you'll need to log into the system and create the new application for the spring cycle, the new LOI in the spring cycle. And that'll be open July 15th, and you'll see it in your portal and your dashboard once you sign into the portal.
I have one over here, Alex. For the small grants, if you ask for a certain amount and it is determined to be too high, will it be denied or adjusted? And the answer is that it will. We clearly specify the maximum support that we would provide for the request, and we really ask that you adhere to the maximum amount. While there may be a difference in the amount that you request and the total cost of the program, that is completely understandable, but we certainly want you to understand that we have set limits and that we're going to not deny you potentially, but we'll have a conversation with you and we'll stick to and not exceed the amount that we have identified as our cap.
All right, so we have another question. Says, our org has a grant that started in January 2019. Are we eligible to send in an LOI as of July 15, 2019? So if your grant started of January 2019, the grant term should be ending in December of 2019. And so that would make you ineligible because you have an open grant status. So open grant status means that you have not yet submitted your final report for any grant that you've received. Regardless of when you received it, if you have not completed a final report and submitted it, your grant was still considered open, thus making you ineligible for other competitive grants. Alrighty, so this one is for the small grants. question, it says, if an agency has a budget higher than 500,000, are they automatically excluded from small grants? And the answer is no. We just prioritize those organizations with smaller operating budgets because of the nature of the small grants and our intentionality behind that. We prioritize, but we do not exclude organizations that have a higher operating. I will say that for the larger organizations that do submit small grants, we're looking at how innovative, or is it a pilot, what exactly you're hoping to accomplish to leverage the small grant in your operation.
I have one over here. Can we apply to 2 different competitive grants if we have different programs that align with FWG, FCCF priorities? As an example, Thrive by 25 and FWG. And the answer is no. While you may see that your program can align with more than one area, you can only apply to one of the 3 areas for funding.
Alrighty. So this one says, when will the next cycle of LOIs be open for competitive grants? So we are currently in the process of opening our fall 2019 grant cycle. Those LOIs will be available July 15th is when that process opens, and that'll be our next cycle.
And I think it's just important to remember that FWG participates in only one grant cycle. So if you miss fall 2019, you will have to wait to fall 2020. We have a few more minutes. If anyone has any other questions that they'd like us to answer, we're happy to do so.
And if you have specific questions that are for a particular grant that you are currently in the middle of, please feel free to shoot me an email and I can answer questions specific to an open grant or eligibility regarding a future grant. I can double check your status once I have access to the system.
And I have a question here. Why the focus on cultural competence? Our foundation's values, I mentioned one of them earlier, which is collaboration, but our foundation values diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we believe with our ever-growing immigrant population that it's important to take a number of variables, cultural variables, into consideration, including ability, age, beliefs, ethnicity, gender, identity, linguistic background, national origin, race, religion, et cetera, when delivering your service and or program.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, the open eligibility requirement, the eligibility requirement that states that you cannot have an open grant with the foundation only applies to competitive grants. So if you are seeking a small grant, you don't have to worry about having a current grant that is open. And if you have received a small grant award, you don't have to worry about that impacting your eligibility for a competitive grant. And again, an open grant just means that you have a competitive grant that you have not yet submitted your final report for. So if you log onto your dashboard and you have a final report assigned to you that has not been completed and submitted, you have an open grant and are ineligible